When it comes to spell checking, Microsoft Word is at the top of its tree. Now, by default, the automatic spell checker is actually turned on, and that's what is causing red squiggles under any of your words. In our example here, the access manual _spelling, even the first couple of paragraphs have quite a high number of spelling mistakes. Now, with the automatic feature on, we see the red squiggles. If that is annoying and you don't want to see red squiggles all the way through your document, you can actually turn off this automatic feature by going to File, Options, Proofing, and remove this tick here that says Check Spelling as you type. That will then mean you no longer have any red squiggles. What it doesn't mean is that you'll no longer have any spelling mistakes. We also have the option to mark grammar errors as you type ticked as well. They will cause blue squiggles under any amount of text, usually part of a paragraph, that isn't grammatically correct. So remove that as well, and you'll have no blue squiggles. So OK, takes us back to our document, and all the squiggles have disappeared, but that isn't stopping the spelling mistakes from taking place. If you turn off the automatic spell checker, then you'll need to make sure you always run the spell checker before you publicize a document. I'm going to turn these automatic options back on so I can spot where Word thinks there are errors. So that's proofing, check spelling as you type, mark grammar errors as you type. OK, and my squiggles come back. Now the option here is to visit each of the squiggles individually and see what you can make of the word. Now if we right-click a red squiggle, Word will give us a sort of idea of what it's trying to change that word to. So this is storing. It's offering soaring, storing, staring, starring, steering. The word I want is in the list, it's storing. If it wasn't in the list, then I can either choose ignore all, in which case it will ignore all the misspellings spelt like that, or I can add it to the dictionary, in which case it will add that spelling to the dictionary and then treat that as the correct spelling for a word. So be very careful with add to dictionary options, because if you add a misspelt word to the dictionary, it's then in the dictionary as a correct word. Now, as far as my storing is concerned, I know it's that one. Retrieved, right click. I know it's that one, not retried, retired, retrieve, or retrieved. So it's retrieved. And that would be the step-by-step process of dealing with the red squiggles. The other option is to run the spell checker at the end of the document, or even as you go through when you've typed a few more pages in, and allow Word to step through each spelling error for you, instead of you having to scroll down and look for each red little squiggle. To run the spell checker, we go to the Review ribbon and choose Spelling and Grammar Check over here on the left. There is a keyboard shortcut to trigger the same action, and that's F7. So if I decide to run the spell checker, it opens in a separate box on the right here, and it will now go to all the red squiggles itself. So it's found the first one, address, and offers me address as an option, or I can say ignore all the misspellings that are spelt like this with one D, or add it to the dictionary. Well, it's certainly none of those. It wants to be address. Now I can choose change or change all. So if I've misspelt address like that quite a few times in the document, then I can change them all by saying change all. It's also offering me a mini dictionary definition of the word, which is speech, speak, speak to. Obviously it's none of those, but I know it is address. So change all. Then it jumps automatically to the next one. Stored on disk is going to be stored. Change all. Software. It's offering me software as two words. Now actually, that is not the correct spelling. It's software. So I would need to manually change that where Word has not been capable of spotting what the correct spelling might be. So I change it to software and then come across to resume my spell check. And it's quite happy with that and moves me down to the next one. CLCK should be click. Change all. Rooty should be root. Again, it spotted the right one. So most of the time it manages it. It was just that software. It couldn't quite spot that as being software. Then we have a grammatical error. It says grammar here. It's blue squiggled on the page. Should then navigate become then navigate. There's actually a double space there. That's what the problem is. So we change. It's explaining what it's found. It looks like you might have inserted more spaces than you intended. Oh, I did. Change. Then it comes down to its, which is it is rather than possessive, and it's offering me it, which is possessive. And it shows me an explanation here. Its is his, the situation, hers. So let's change that. Then we have button, button, change all. Designing should be designing, change all. Either of these there will activate the new panel. 3. So you notice it's offering there, and them higher up the list than 3, but when you look at it in context, you know it means 3. It's either of these 3 options here. So it's 3 that I want, and change. Table is table, change all, offering me a definition that fits this time. Tell number, it's trying to make it into Telenor. Let's ignore that. I just want tell number there. Field 2 plus is grammatical, ignore. And the third one, last name, there's a mix in the capitalization here, and it's offering it as last lowercase. Actually, I'm going to go in and change the name to capital N and the first name to a capital N, and then come across back to my grammar and spell check and resume. And we have a problem here, format.memo, ignore, ignore, number ole, ignore, summarizes, needs to have a Z, change all, lets you give the field an alternative name, let's with the apostrophe S, no it's not, so ignore, 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 ignore. And then finally, when we get to the end, we get spelling and grammar check complete, you're good to go. Okay, now you could run that at the end or you could run that partway through. If you run it partway through and then run it at the end, obviously the errors you've replaced previously and items that you've ignored won't be spell checked or grammar checked again. It will only spell check and grammar check new additions to the document since the last spell check and grammar check. So you either do it yourself every time you come across a squiggle, a red squiggle or a blue squiggle, or you leave those squiggles to build up and do it partway through or at the end using the spell check function on the review ribbon of spelling and grammar, triggered also by the keyboard shortcut F7.